This is my senior capstone for the app that I created titled Muse, and I am Morgan Robinson. Oops. Okay. So the goal for this app was to create a space for artists to store their work as well as the information related to their work, including if a piece has been sold, how much it was sold for, and what was used to make the piece. I also wanted to create a space where artists can view promotional events where they could possibly showcase their work to a bigger audience, and also post their work across other social media platforms. Key features that I wanted to include was a gallery. This is just for a visual representation of artists of what they had created already, so they can see what they created and what they had already stored. I also wanted to include a stats page, which is a page showcasing the data collected from when a user adds a post, and as well as just information and data relating to the art market in general. Promo page was going to be the page that showcased the promotional events. So anything local or national would be shown on the user's page so they can see things they could apply for or sign up for. And then the social post page was the page that was going to be used to post everything at one time. So if you click a button, you can post to your Instagram, your Facebook, and your Twitter. I wanted to create an app. Why I chose to do this, I wanted to create an app because I have mostly created websites. I'm very interested in front-end development. I enjoy CSS and HTML and learning about it and discovering new things with it. So I thought creating a website would be something I was used to when I need to step out of my comfort zone, which is the spirit of Capstone. So I decided to make an app instead, so I could branch out a little. Here, these are some mock-ups I created when I first started thinking about what I wanted for the project. And you can later, when I showcase my demo, you can see how they compare. But this first one is the gallery page, which is going to have a user's profile photo, the gallery, showcasing their work, and then at the bottom you can see the tab bar. And the second one is the stats, how I want to lay out the stats page with the users, with two sections, the users information and their statistics that came from the post that they posted over here, the trending events and just local trends and movements displayed in a pie chart style was what I was going to go for. That didn't end up working. It wasn't the best way to display the data, so I went with another route. And then the other of the core pages were the promotional photo, the promotional page and with a promotional photo or a poster for the event, as well as text boxes including the event information. And then for the post page, it was a button to choose the photo to add to a post, the comment to get, to write what you want to go with the post, what you want to say, if you were selling the piece, if you just want to show everyone an amazing thing you created. And it also included a button just to, post all at once. Okay, so what I was familiar with was Xcode. These are the bigger things that I used. I did use some other little things, but I didn't think they were as important. But what I was familiar with was Xcode. Xcode is the first thing I used at Carthage. I was very familiar with it. I thought it would be an easy thing to use since I'm used to it. It actually proved to be hard because I had never coded with Swift in Xcode, and coding, it's a big difference than with C++. So, but Xcode is Apple's IDE on Mac, which is for developing iOS apps, and basically anything Apple offers is created with Xcode or Swift. And Apple, again, I had used this in the past in I was familiar with it, but it's not the easiest thing to work with on this list. What I was unfamiliar with was Swift. Swift is a programming language, again, developed by Apple. It's a bit complicated to use, in my opinion. I don't know what the easiest thing to compare it to. I think Kotlin and Java, but not really at the same time. They have similar elements, but Swift is in its own thing in its entirety. It's really hard to compare it, but I have done a presentation on Kotlin before, so it kind of reminded me of that, but they are very different as well. Firebase, which is Google's platform, which I use their auth manager, as well as their Firestore, which is their cloud-hosted NoSQL database, as well as CocoaPods. I also use CocoaPods, which is a dependency manager for Swift, which I use for managing different libraries. I use CocoaPods to connect my Swift app with Firebase. And on this list, it was the easiest thing to use. It's very simple. It's very easy to use. I don't have a dedicated slide to it, but I liked using it the best just because it gave me the least hassle. Okay, so Swift has a couple of different ways you can program with it, either using storyboards or just regular coding like we're using code like we're used to in like you would typically use for C++ or any other typical language. I initially thought this was very cool because it gave you options on to choosing how you wanted to code. But as I started working, I find it quite annoying because I originally wanted to use storyboards because I had never developed in that way. So I wanted a new way to try something new, but I ended up not liking storyboards. So I tried to mix storyboards with like just coding regularly. That didn't work. So then I just coded the whole thing instead of using storyboards, which it was nice. I liked the look of using storyboards better, but like getting it to actually function was a bit problematic. And researching, which I'll get to later, also was a bit difficult because of the two different ways of coding. Firebase has two cloud-based database options, Firestore and real-time database. I use both while developing, not at the same time, but when I originally was coding with storyboards, I was using the real-time database, and then when I switched over, I switched to the Firestore. I didn't find a huge difference between the two. They're simple to like implement. You use them the same way, so I didn't have an issue with that. Noah mentioned in his capstone how there's a quiz you can take to see which one's best, and I fell in the middle, so I didn't think it was a big deal which one I chose. And for the most part, Google's documentation for Firebase is very well written and it's very easy to use, but it's only easy to use for the things they want you to use it for. If you're trying to do something a bit different, you're kind of out of luck. So Firebase gave me some of my hardest times, and it was kind of simple to use too. I like using it and I want to use it again, but it was kind of a hit or miss when I was using Firebase. Hardships that I went to, Xcode updates. The day after I turned in the essay for my capstone, Apple updated Xcode in a way where they got rid of some features and added some features. So when I looked up tutorials and articles on how to use or create using Swift, I didn't have a lot of information. It was hard to get to where I needed to get to. From what I had, not a lot of, even Apple's documentation wasn't updated to how to use their new update. So it was a bit annoying, but I figured it out in the end, but that did take a while and I couldn't follow specific tutorials because it was outdated, and Xcode updated a couple of times while I was writing this, and it proved to be quite annoying. Design, like I said before, I am used to and I'm most comfortable with front-end design. And I usually focus on how things look and making things look the best they can. I didn't like how this looked. mostly because to get things to actually function and work took more time than I wanted, so I didn't have time to actually design. Swift research, like I mentioned before, there's two ways you can program in with Swift. So when I was using storyboards, if there's a specific article I wanted to use of how to do something, it might just be in how to do that in code and not how to do it in storyboards, and vice versa. When I switched over, there was a tutorial I wanted to use on how to add something in Swift, but it was only available for storyboards, and I was no longer using storyboards, so that was quite annoying. And people tend to have like a preference on what they like to use. So articles and videos I was trying to use, those people teaching didn't have, you know, other tutorials, like maybe using storyboards or just using code. So it was kind of hard. Also going back to Xcode updates, a lot of the articles I was looking for were outdated. 2014, 2017 about how to Xcode updates, and not these most recent ones. So again, that proved to be a problem. Errors in debugging. Bugs in Xcode would cost me so much time to figure out, and to some points where I just needed to start over, delete a whole file and add it again. I would read the error over and over. I would Google the error, but nothing would work. So at the end of the day, starting over on projects and files proves to be the best choice. Okay, so now it's for the demo of what I created. And I'm going to show you in the simulator that comes when you make a Xcode, if you make an Xcode app, you can use. Am I showing my whole desktop or only?
The browser.
The browser, okay. So I'm going to share again with my desktop because that proved to be the best way to showcase the simulator. Do you see the simulator now?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to run this. Okay, so this is the gallery page that I created, and you can see you have the edit profile button, the photo, the bio, profile picture, and then these are just some mock photos that I added so that gallery wouldn't be empty. You would also have, this is the button you use to create a post, as well as the settings button where you can log out, you get the about and edit your profile from here as well. I'm going to log out of this account and create a new account. And when I do this, sometimes I have to reboot the simulator or go back into the app to do it. So if you don't have a login, it won't show you anything. You can't log in, basically. You can't log in, but if you make an account, you just have to insert first name. I'm just gonna add some random stuff. Gmail.com, and then password, I'll set as password. And then you can choose a photo for your profile from here. You can take a photo, but that will crash the app. Well, at least now, because it's in the simulator and the camera doesn't work in the simulator, but you can also just choose one of the photo from the pre-built, and you can just choose the photo, and that would be it. And then you press sign up, and sometimes it takes a second. And then there you have a new account. Oh, I have run this. I have practiced this. So this account does have something in it because I made it before and then I just re-registered it. But it tells you how many posts in the gallery you have, and here's the button to add one. Again, the camera doesn't work, but if you're using it on a phone, you could showcase the camera and take a picture, but you can go to a gallery, choose a picture from here, click choose. This is for filters. So far, I only was able to get it to go to black and white. So if you click it, you get a black and white photo. If that's how you want to display your picture, then you go to next, and then you put the information for this. So if you sold the piece, you can click this, and it will turn green to showcase that you sold it. How much did you sell it for? You can put in this information as well, and then you post it. It gives you of how much you sold it for, how many hours you spent, what is the piece made out of, and any additional details. And then again, sometimes this works instantly, sometimes I have to refresh it, but it will be there if you just go here. And then you'll have both posts here, and it's updated to 2. You can also edit your profile, so the bio and the name. So from here, or your photo, you can also edit that from here. You can do edit profile, and you can just change this to something else, like Capstone, or remove something, and then you press save, and then that updates in time as well. The next page is the stats page, and these are interactive graphs. I wasn't able to get, for one of the Firestore errors or issues I had was the issues, it wasn't easy to manipulate the information that I had other than the photos I wanted or the username or email, but getting information from specific post was a bit difficult too. So this is just collective data. So this is real data that I got from an open data source, where telling you the estimated value of the art market worldwide from 2013 and the projected one to 2014. And also this one under here is popular types of fine art bought online globally during the COVID vaccine. So then there's information on that. Again, we're gonna skip over the promo page and go to the post page. This page, I was really excited to have the synchronized post for Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. They have there was a library I could have added for social, but it was a little outdated and hadn't been updated in a while, so it was hard to use, and I couldn't use it the way people were showing me because those tutorials were. But to combat that, I did add the feature where if you do click it, it does take you to your Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter automatically, using the username you used here. So if I click Instagram, it will take me to the Instagram page for whoever the username for this, whoever's post this is. I just put a random username, so this is that random person's page. And it's the same for Facebook and Twitter. You just click that and it takes you to that specific page, so you can add it from there. Okay, and promo page, I skipped over this because this, in theory, should have been the easiest page for me to create because it was hard coded, because I didn't want users to post to put the promo post. I wanted to put the promo post instead, just for security reasons, so no one could put like a fake event. But this crashes my app, and again, like I said, with bugs, they take so long to figure out. So this had only happened recently, and whenever I click that page, it freaks out and goes there when the code is very simple. And the least complex of it all, but again, bugs with Swift do take a lot to figure out and hash out. Okay. Before I get to what I learned, this is an example when I had the simulator running of the promo page. This is what a promo feed would look like. It would have a name here, a button so you could save or like go to the link that had the link associated with the promo post, the actual post image. And then this is the simulator. Oh, the simulator also works in dark mode, which is fun. So you can do it in light mode or dark mode. I didn't show you that. But this is the page, which is a little cleaner and I like a lot better because it has the labels, post, and what I sold here. And I use this is what I use with storyboards. This is what I created early on when I was originally doing the storyboards. And creating this in code took much less time. This took me about like a month to figure out how to get this to, and then it was very quick with doing just coding it. So that's why I gave up on storyboards. So what I learned, obviously I learned how to use, to a degree, I learned the Swift language, as well as how to use Firebase and CocoaPods. I also learned, like was mentioned before, when to scratch something. I'm very stubborn. So if I work long hours on something, I don't want to give up on it. I'm going to keep trying until I get it. But obviously, like with the page, using storyboards, I spent a lot of time on it, but it just didn't work out, and I couldn't get any user functionality, and it would take, I wouldn't get enough use out of it. So that's why I switched. So that's something else that I learned that I'm glad that I got to experience doing this. Because usually I would just stick to code until it works, but giving up on something or knowing when to let go of code was something I had to learn too. Okay, and then I wanted to give a thank you to my professors here at Carthage, as well as my classmates, and thank you for listening to my capstone. And if you have any questions.
Some questions for Morgan?
Yeah, Morgan, I had one. Did you find any limitations with the Cloud Firestore database, or like something that was like functionality that it didn't offer, or you thought you could get out of it that you weren't able to?
I thought, because I wanted to get the photo storage, because I use storage as well. Oh, I meant to showcase, I forgot to showcase that as well. But if you look at, because you can see the updates that happen in the Firebase. So if you refresh that, you can see the users, the added users, their information, and you can go to the storage, and this shows their images and the post. So in the original one, you can get the profile picture and you can download it from here. And then the post, like all the posts I had before, they're stored here. And that I got photos first. I figured out how to use this with photos first. So I thought I would be able to use it with other data I entered as well. So the data I entered with the photo, like how much it sold for, why it sold, I wasn't able to like manipulate that data as easily as I was like photos to show up and appear again, and which didn't make sense to me. But Firebase or Google really only wants you to manipulate or get like IDs and usernames and passwords from here to use and authentication, but like not really the other data that I wanted to use that you won't typically find in all databases. So that was a big limitation as well.
Hi, Morgan. I have a question. I've used a couple different mobile frameworks over the years, but I've never used iOS. So I know in the old days with Android, there was a way with an XML file to sort of have this tool. I think it's similar to storyboards, where you basically draw a picture and it generates some XML. And then back in those days, you would write some Java code that, when somebody clicks a button or interacts with it. I'm wondering about the storyboards. How exactly do they structure the visual part versus the code, and what exactly went wrong with using storyboards? Was it, well, yeah, maybe you could just explain what a storyboard is and how it relates to code.
Storyboards is just like a visual representation of what you would typically code. So you could drag and drop elements like a view controller or a new class. You could drag and drop that and place things where you would want it to showcase on the app or the simulator. So when it's presented, it's typically presented as this easier way to code, but it's not. especially since we're not, most of us aren't used to coding that way, it creates a lot of errors when you try to manipulate the functionality of it. So like, I want my button to do this specifically. When I wanted to add in the code portion of that, or when I tried to code it, I got a lot of errors just trying to set up the functionality of what a button should do, or what the next page should do, or what the page before and after should look like, or how we should get to this next post. So
So it generates code rather than, I think the tool I'm thinking of a few years ago, it actually just created like XML instead of actual code. But this one, it actually creates code, and then you're supposed to change or edit that code, and that caused some issues.
yes, so when it creates the code for you, so you can go back, if you add a storyboard, you can go and you can play around with the code that it gives you from what you put, but it's not as easy. I wasn't able to interpret as easily if I was to add it myself or to code it myself. So I found that very hard to work with.
And right now I'm learning, I don't know if you've ever heard of Flutter, but it's a Google tool that basically you write the code once and you click a button and you can get an Android app, or you can get an iOS app, or even a web app from the same code.
I haven't heard of Flutter.
But that's all, there's no tool, there's no graphical tool like that. You write all the code by hand. And I could see how that is actually, I prefer that, just like you preferred just writing the code yourself, because I think you have a little more control with that.
You do another thing with storyboards, you're limited of how much control you actually have, and then editing that code is a little intimidating because you don't want to mess it up. And when I edited the code, I did mess it up a lot, and that's why I swayed away from it.
Okay, more questions for Morgan?
I have a question regarding Android. Have you ever considered expanding it to that platform and maybe using your experience from developing with Kotlin there?
I specifically wanted to make an iOS app just because of what I have and what I use. I use a lot of iOS tools, and I was used to it, so I didn't want to try to do anything with Android. I've seen other people, specifically you, use develop an Android, but I'm just not used to it. I've never don't use Android products. Wouldn't know how to test it, how to use it. So I thought it would be easier to use something I was used to that I use on the day-to-day anyway. So that's why I only did this in iOS and not in Android as well.
So Morgan, it sounds to me, you tell me if I'm wrong, it sounds to me like you may have come to appreciate my own feelings about the Apple ecosystem a little bit better.
Very much so. So every time you in class, when you said because Apple, or that you hated Apple, I agreed very strongly.
Yep, because Apple.
Yes.
Yep. Well, that was terrific, Morgan. Thank you. What are your plans for post-college?
I have a job interview Friday, and I have a job interview on the next Monday as well. So hopefully I land one of those positions as well.
Very, very good luck to you, and let us know, okay? Everybody, how about a big round for Morgan? Thank you. Good job. Very good job.